We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Welcome back to Liberty Nation Radio. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. We're joined once again by longtime host of this here radio show, Tim Donner. And earlier we were talking Joe Biden's swan song, but now I want to talk about what the Democrats seem to have as their key issue this election cycle. And it's not the economy, it's not immigration. We might as well face it. They're addicted to Donald Trump. Do that in your best Robert Palmer voice. Tim, why is Donald Trump the centerpiece of the Democrats' overall campaign? Now, we saw it at the DNC, the convention. Everybody was talking about Donald Trump. It was almost as though it was a club expressly designed to badmouth Donald Trump and not to put forward a positive vision for the future of this nation, unless you count the positive vision of the future of this nation as no Donald Trump. And that's it.
And that is it.
That is it.
But that's been it. That was Hillary Clinton's campaign. She got sucked into a tete-a-tete against Trump on personality and honesty and issues that were not really policy issues so much as personality issues. And this has always been the playbook against Trump. They believe, and in 2016 they were wrong, in 2020 maybe they were right, that the country is so repulsed by Donald Trump that when it comes down to it, all they have to do is point out what a terrible, rotten, evil person he is. And that'll be enough for whoever the alternative is, whether it be Biden or Harris or anybody else. That's always been the presumption. That was the presumption of their lawfare campaign, basically using the code of law for political purposes to try and kick Trump off the ballot, to try and get him thrown into prison. And they believed they could do it because of their own belief that Donald Trump was repulsive enough to enough of the American people that even though they would suffer from the slings and arrows of lawfare, that ultimately this would bury Donald Trump forever. That is their campaign. That is their platform. That is their policy. Their policy is singular: get rid of Donald Trump. So that means we have another race based on personality. If we're not going to talk about issues, well, if you're Kamala Harris, why would you want to, when you just went on record as tripling, quadrupling down on progressivism with her scheme of price controls, which every economist says is a disaster and which has never once worked in the history of civilization. It's something that is basically a critical part of command and control structures, authoritarian regimes, statism. And this is where she's come down. So she has to turn this more towards the demonization of Trump, because that's her one chance to win, is to make enough people say, enough with Trump. I've had enough. I can't take more. I can't take another 4 years of chaos like we had during the Trump administration. That's what they're hoping for. They're not hoping that anybody is going to say, well, I'm going to compare their policy straight up, and really Harris looks better on the economy. Harris looks better on crime. Harris looks better on the border. Nobody's going to say that. But they might say, as a woman of color, she is someone we want to represent the country here and now in the midst of a progressive era, which, by the way, if Kamala Harris wins, we will have become a progressive country for sure. With 12, it'll be 16 out of 20 years that you have progressives controlling the White House. the constitutionalists won't be able to recover from that. At the same time, signaling that this is where she's going to take the country, and she's even in the polls right now. I think it's a chilling prospect for a lot of people.
I'm wondering, Tim, that we talk, this is a campaign based on personalities, an election based on personalities. I think it comes back to that ultimate question that is always asked, and was asked originally by Ronald Reagan, I believe. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Because as Carville says, it's the economy, stupid. But are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And I've noticed that Don Lemon has been doing the man in the street interviews, or in the women in the street interviews.
By the way, thank you for that alternative pronunciation.
Well, I want to make sure it's
Don
correct.
Lemon, Don
Kamala
Lemon,
Harris,
Lemon.
Don
Yes.
Lemon. There's a character on a British TV show, Hyacinth Bucket, and she said it's bouquet.
That's good. Perfect.
So anyway, he's been doing the man in the street interviews, buttonholing women of color. The majority of the women of color that he's spoken to are all in on Trump.
Well, we've heard talk for some time now about how Biden was losing the black vote. And there was some talk that it had to do with his cognitive decline, but I think it wasn't Biden losing black voters. I think it was the Democrats losing black voters. But the Republicans still need better organization in black communities if they're going to make any inroads. They can't just count on people turning against the Democrats when they're not presenting a clear alternative vision. But there could be a reckoning among black voters in this race. There really could, especially among black men, because I think it's not unrealistic for Donald Trump to think he could get perhaps 25% or more of the vote of black men.
And that would be a political earthquake.
Yes, it
worth
would.
writing about. Tim Donner, thanks ever so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Mark.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.